Oh, good. Hello.
How are you?
Yes.
Well.
Good.
You get this one.
Maybe moving forward a little bit. Bill, I know you were interested, but just so you know, June 21st is International Yoga Day, so you're well prepared. I just saw that on Cleveland.com, so. I know that's important to you.
International.
Not just national, international.
I like to remember that my anniversary wedding.
Is it? June 21st? Perfect.
Very important.
Did you think I bought a card yet?
I hope, so. Yes, you wrote one, you hand wrote one.
Oh.
That's great.
It's made with love.
You're a lot of help. Everyone needs you. Scott. One of those gas station e-card.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah, that's sort of my day.
No, you will not see this. This is a magnificent Three Musketeers.
I try to really, this is possible.
Okay, so that clock is 1 minute fast.
So it's 1 minute till 7.
Oh. Fantastic
Leslie, would you you'll put me as present, I don't need to sign this to her.
No, I'll put, if she's present. I mean, I guess it's
Not as council.
not as council, so yeah, you should sign in.
Thank you, Rev.
It's 7 o'clock.
Chris won't be here.
Yeah,
Good to go.
won't be here. Tim said
Good to go.
probably be here, but he's flying in front of
Okay, welcome to the Village of South Russell Special Council meeting. Today is Monday, June 19th, 7 p.m. Administrative Assistant will take the roll, please.
Porter?
Here.
Bell?
Here.
Berger, absent. Kent?
Here.
Kavanaugh? In the audience. Galicki, absent.
Okay, this is a special council meeting, which means we have to follow only what's on the agenda. And it is a discussion with Paw Lake Homeowners Association Board regarding possible property purchase, property acquisition. I wanted to say a few things before we get into this, and I'll turn it over quickly to the Public Utilities Committee, Mark Porter. First of all, thank you for giving up the time out of your busy days for being here. Looking at the map, which is the green one on this side over here, this is basically, we are South Russell, squeezed right in here. The bottom, very bottom, obviously Russell Township. Water, okay, I'll do this again. We are right here, right now. This line up and down, that's Chillicothe. We're located right here. Paw Lake is right here. This is Bell Road. Water comes, basically, everything you see here in yellow flows north, and almost all of it flows to you. So I made a mistake last week I mentioned that water came from Crackle. It's not that far. But basically, this spot right here, this is where the yellow and the pink come together. This is Haskins Road, and this is the other street coming across here, Stafford. So you know, we're a couple miles away, and all this water flows north. Right now, this looping line is Lake in the Woods. Lake in the Woods is over there, but this is part of their development. So it comes from Haskins and Stafford, north, crosses into South Russell. This rectangle which you see there is Lake Louise home. Pardon me. I'm not the best. So it comes through here and joins right here, this intersection. This is the south branch of Silver Creek. Silver Creek is really up here. And this water comes from out in Auburn, comes up, heads northwest. It crosses now into South Russell. This is Plazics Lake, which is on the south part of just west of Ashland. Water comes up through here, keeps flowing, joins with this water, and heads north. A little bit of water, this road here, right here, this wiggly line, that is Sunridge, one of the highest points in the village. And obviously, the water on a ridge all comes this way. So this water comes from Sunridge, comes down, joins some water that's coming out of a lake in the woods, goes into, and this is Lake Louise. Lake Louise water goes down a huge ramp and joins. So basically, all this water in the southern part of the Silver Creek flows here. And now this is Bell Road. And when it comes in, the water has flowed freely and then bang. The silt pond, your silt pond this is Bell, it's right here. As I mentioned at one of the last meetings, when you stand on Bell Road in a rain, the amount of water flowing under Bell from Silver Creek, from Haskins, Stafford, and Sugar, and Sunridge, Lake Louise comes to you. That's what causes the problem. Now, if somebody were pouring all this water and silt onto somebody else's private property, that would become an issue. No one theoretically owns Silver Creek, at what we'll call Haskins, Stafford, or even coming from Lake Louise. But this is where everything comes. All right, that's the situation that I see. I'll turn it over to Public Utilities Committee. Mark is a member, Chris is the head, but Chris couldn't be here. Mark, take it from here.
Sure. Welcome to everybody. I'm Mark Queer. I'm on the Public Utilities Committee. And a couple of years back, Public Utilities decided to take ownership of stormwater in the village, which is why we have a detention pond just south of Village Hall, Manor Brook over there, and of course the support of council throughout. Big buck projects for a little village like ours. And these stormwater has a village-wide problem that needs a village-wide solution. Because of that, we're here to discuss Pawpaw's situation with your silt pond and what might be done in the future about it in terms of keeping it dredged and keeping it active, doing what it's supposed to do, which is keep silt out of their lake. So a few questions I have for you all, and then you can ask me as many as you like. How many people are generally on the board for Pawpaw Homeowner Association?
7.
7? And of the 7, how many are here tonight?
5.
Okay, so you'd have a majority that can consider these things, were this for some other purpose, right?
Well, we have board members who can discuss these things, but we don't have a board that has the authority to act on anything without knowing the membership on something.
Oh, sure, we're not looking for that tonight, but the question, at least my experience from bylaws that I've had things to do with over the years, is that if the board is unwilling to propose something to the membership, and the membership does not bring it to the board's attention by some kind of mechanism, then nothing gets done on a particular issue.
We have a very transparent board and community, so when this meeting is over, we will communicate the subject that we're looking to our.
Okay. So your silt pond right now, when I drive by, it looks like it's been dredged fully. Is that accurate?
As fully as we're gonna be able to. The guy who did it actually did a very thorough job. There was one portion, the southern portion, that we just couldn't access, it wasn't stable enough. He was concerned about those pieces of equipment. You can't see it right now at the current levels. If you drop the silt pond, you'll be able to see that one area. But beyond that, he took the silt pond down pretty much as far as you can take it. So, we are actually very happy with the job he did. It took a while, but he, as you can see, put a lot of silt on.
And all the silt that was dredged out of the silt pond is now basically on the shoreline.
It's all on that field next to the silt pond where he started spreading it, but it will still need to dry. You know, he may plant some stuff out in the short term, but it's gonna have to be graded and planted, to make sure the water flows to the silt pond from areas that it needs to be. So,
And that's to avoid the silt going back into the silt pond on a heavy rain, that kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, he's pulled, you can see today, he pulled some of the silt away from the shoreline. I would probably suggest that we put up some type of silt fencing in the short term until we can plant something that will pull the silt away from the silt pond. But he's in the process of leveling it out at least, but I would expect that it will last more through the summer before it can be fully graded.
How deep is it now?
Anywhere from 8 to 10 to 11 feet, depending on where he went. He got down as far as 11 feet in some areas in the center. He took it all the way down to the clay, which is what we wanted.
Okay. When it was built back in the 70s, was that the depth to begin with, approximately?
I'm assuming, I can't say for sure, I wasn't here in the 70s, and I don't have any document that says what the depth was, but I'm confident that whatever he went down to was probably the original depth because he went down to the clay. So, you know, what he was pulling out was silt, and when he got to the base of the silt pond stuff, because that's what he was dragging out of in some place.
And what did this cost the HOA?
$50,000.
Is the planting going to be extra?
It's all part of the project. Now, I will tell you that hopefully he doesn't read these minutes. It was more than he expected. And if he were to quote this project again, in hindsight, it would be $50,000.
Would it be double?
Hard to say.
That's where the quotes were.
Some of the quotes were more. Yeah, somebody quoted $100,000. I'm not sure what he would quote now to do it, but it would be more than the $50,000.
I gotta stop, but I always forget, when you speak, give a name and address. We'll try to get everybody in one time, and then we should be able to hear your voices and get through that.
Since I've been doing most of the speaking, I'll go first. Richard Howard, 27 Buffalo. And then Bobby O'Brien was the second.
So it was dredged back in 2015, now in 2023.
Correct.
So an 8-year differential between the two.
Well, yeah, but the only reason there was an 8-year differential was because we quoted it 2 years ago. This guy had a quote from 2 years ago. We were gonna do it down at Lake Louise, did the bridge project, and we didn't want to dredge the silt pond while that project was underway in case it was gonna lead to more silt coming into the silt pond. We wanted to rates on this guy.
And for ongoing purposes, you plan on dredging it every 5 years or something like that?
So in the interest of full transparency, we are contemplating putting we are considering putting something in that will catch the silt farther south, which will then result in us dredging more frequently, but less expensive. So the concept is to put some type of barrier in below the water line that catches silt. And then every couple of years, you go in and you dredge it for a day or two in the area where it's catching the silt, and you're out of there. And you're not doing it like this project was, where you're pulling massive amounts of silt out at the time you do it. And it's such a significant project that obviously it took months for this, almost a year for him to complete this. But if we do it, we talked to him about doing something like this, and he's gonna give us a quote on it. But we talked about putting something below the water line that will catch silt in the south, allow us to lower the lake and the silt pond, dry it out, dredge it out, throw it on the back of the truck, pull it out of there, dump it somewhere, on our property or somewhere else, be done in 2 days. In which case, it'll be more frequent, but significantly less expensive.
Well, the village has floated the idea of purchasing the silt pond to become village property, some nominal amount, like $10. Is there interest on the board, or by the board, to pursue this?
Well, I think that there's interest, I think the devil's in the details, and then, of course, we haven't had any type of meeting with respect to the community. When I say the devil's in the details, the issue, there's just several issues that pop into my head that I'm sure pop into yours. One is, how much, are you just buying the silt pond? We would have some significant hesitancy to sell the land next to it. We would grant easements. The reason I would have hesitancy in selling that is we have to access the southern portion of the lake. And we're gonna have to dredge that. And the only way we can dredge that is to drive in on our property from Bell Road and access the southern portion with earthmoving equipment and trucks. So we need access to that whenever we decide to do that. We can grant easements. Obviously, I know from some of your meetings, and because I probably raised the issue in a prior meeting, that you're concerned about where to put silt if you own it. We'll have to sort those issues out. We have to have some performance requirements. If we're gonna sell the silt pond and no longer have control over when it's dredged and taken care of, we're gonna have to have confidence that it's gonna be done. Obviously, we understand that if you're willing to do it, this group is committed to getting it done, but this group may not be on village council in 10 years. I have absolutely no idea who's gonna be on village council for 10 years, and I want some type of agreement that was enforceable, or the silt pond would have to revert back to Paw Lake, because we can't allow our lakes, the quality of our lake to be damaged as a result of a failure to act by South Russell down the road. So we have to have some type of provisions in there that protects us. And obviously, who knows what the rest of our community would feel about selling it as a silt pond for $10. I personally could care less if it's a silt pond. There aren't a lot of people offering us more for the silt pond, so we might consider it. But I realize that means we're segregating out that portion from Paw Lake's plat.
Yeah.
So it'll take a little bit of work, obviously, on the water, so from our perspective, I can manage it on the PDL side, but I'm not gonna manage it for you guys.
Well, the village would be taking care of that. What's your performance criteria now for the dredging of the silt pond? I mean, at some point, you guys measure it, you go out kayak and like drop
Well, when we got the quotes done for this last one, we had soundings,
Mhm.
which is what I would probably want to do is bring somebody out to do soundings now. And then use soundings, which is it's not a cost prohibitive thing to do. And then use soundings as the measure for when the sill has to be done. Now, if we employ what we're talking about, this kind of wall area, then, we might just want it on a more frequent schedule so that we can drop it down, pull the sills out on that one side of the wall and be done with it. That would be less expensive. I'm not interested, I don't want to saddle a village with $50,000 every 5 years. I don't think that's what it's going to take if we take good care of it. I think if we maybe involve your engineer on ways that we can make managing a silt pond easier now that it's been taken down to its original depths. But I would say that we should do soundings now and use the depth as a basis for performance.
That makes sense. Do you plan on doing that?
I will do it if we're moving forward with some type of agreement with the village. If not, I don't know what I'll do this year. We probably will do it this year, just so we know what the actual depth is.
Yeah, you'd have a
Since
baseline,
we just have it.
no matter what happens.
I think we probably will.
What we've kicked around as a committee for performance indicators is an annual sounding in several different points in the silt pond to determine what's the buildup at the bottom, from the baseline that you all will have. And then it would be an agreed upon point where dredging would be done, whether it's 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet from the bottom, I don't know. I rely on water quality people at CT to tell me what would be the right time to actually do that. And then because the village owns it, it would trigger another obligation on the village's part. This would be in writing because we may not be here, you guys may not be here. Going forward 15, 20, 30 years, none of us may be here, but the people who follow us will have something in writing that's going to say this is how it's going to be handled so that Pawpaw's not bearing the expense of taking it back and then dredging it, but that the village would be doing it. And this is one of the, I think, the first time we've done solely a private project, a private property kind of project that only affected essentially one neighborhood. We've had others that affected multiple neighborhoods, but this is new for us. But it would certainly relieve Pawpaw of the current situation you're in, where you had to assess, 31 homes, the cost of doing this, so $1,200 each or so.
Oh, no, well, just the silt pond, yeah, that's 50,000.
Yeah.
Right.
May I ask, what are the differentiating factors on why Manor Brook and Kensington were given funds? Was the discussion of land being sold taken in those cases as well?
Kensington was never given funds.
$300K for their pension basis, was that not Kensington?
I lived there. So does Bill. Last
I believe you were original. Yeah,
Yeah, the Kensington, I thought you got the Kensington Central and Pension basis, you guys got $300,000, right?
on the central retention basin, yes. That catches Kensington's water and protects Chagrin Lakes.
So whose property is that?
That was South Russell's property.
Yeah.
Back here.
That's all South Russell?
That's all South Russell's property.
Okay, well, that's South Russell, okay, there's water from Kensington, you're saying,
Yes.
taking that?
Yeah, it comes right in.
And from points east.
Sure.
Yes. Basically, everything from Sunridge west came this way.
Let me ask you,
Kensington didn't get, homeowners association didn't get it done. To answer the other part of your question, for the Manor project, there was actually a much larger project, but because Whitetail actually owned the land, they're the ones who sold it, or gave us the easement for like $100, right? We have an easement there. Whitetail got $100 for allowing that project to go on their property.
So they didn't use it in a similar scenario?
There was no dredging involved
no, it's
So
reviewing
water,
project. Wasn't drainage, it's different earthwork.
It was certainly a water project and it expanded the floodplain, yes.
Okay.
But it wasn't a lake
Where,
to do that.
where in South Russell do you have silt ponds besides Palm Lake? Because I noted in your minutes you're concerned about this slippery slope of having to dredge everybody's silt ponds. How many silt ponds are there in South Russell?
There is Lake Louise for sure, and there are 47, last count, 47 ponds of different types in South Russell. But
How's
the
that
silt ponds,
though? Silt ponds.
I only know of 2, but there may be more.
Lake Louise has one. I'm gonna ask Ruth. Ruth, do you know if Classics have a silt pond?
What about Bellwood?
Okay,
It's not a silt pond
Next.
on the side?
yeah, Bellwood has one. Their quote, last quote was, 75,000. So they have a silt pond
75,000 for what?
to clean their silt pond. They haven't done anything in years.
That makes the size of those.
It's like half of yours too. That's why,
I'm
I
just
don't know how-
curious, because at the beginning of the meeting, the reason I'm asking is at the beginning of the meeting, you were kind enough to talk about the water flow in South Russell and from points south and east. And if you look at it, there's, one of the reasons we have that silt pond is because we are kind of the catch basin for the eastern half of South Russell, where all the water flows. And, you know, I haven't gone and looked at what Lake Louise's silt pond looks like, but they don't have the same level of water flowing through them based on just that drawing, but I suspect also if you were to walk out to during a rainstorm, that we have. So the question is, separate and apart from maintaining our silt pond, what can we do to mitigate the flow of silt that's flowing all the way through South Russell into our way?
I don't know that we can do anything about that. That's all private property.
But, I wanted to finish, I think over here, these are all Chagrin Lakes, there's 7 lakes. No one has a silt pond. Kensington does not have a silt pond. Southwick does not. And then these are over in Manabrook. I don't think there are any silt ponds there. And the one at Bellwood and the one at Lake Louise, I would say they're about the size of this room.
Yeah, Lake Louise's is pretty tiny compared to yours.
Sugarbush? No? Sugarbush have one?
Sure. Thank you. Yes, Sugarbush has a small one. Bobby, you may have heard this one. Sugarbush is right here. When the road was paved in 2014, we had one of those storms and it broke through our silt fence. So we paid half. 7,000, 8,000 to dredge this silt pond, as the feeling was during that construction. But they have a small silt pond right here. Theirs is like half of this room.
It's very small.
I think those are the ones. But Rich, you hit it on the head. All this water comes right to you, and all the silt.
How much construction have we had along the south branch of Silver Creek? I haven't gone up there as well, but
There's, that's a good question. There are 2 houses being built. You may have heard of the house that burned a year ago. Yeah, they're in here. This is Snyder, by the way.
it was a brand new house.
Yes, yeah, 4 days before they moved in. Yeah, but that's been it as far as construction on Silver Creek.
Because that can also impact the flow of silt
Yes.
through Silver Creek.
There is a real small, you can barely see it, there's a little, very small pond they have. But to answer your question, there's, I think, just Sugarbush, Bellwood, and Lake Louise are the only 3 silt ponds in the village. Yeah, you know, my fear is what you just said. If we take on your private situation, will they be lined out the door saying, hey, help us, help us, help us? You know, Southwick at the north end of Southwick, it's about 4 inches deep.
Well, I mean, what have they been doing to maintain it? We've been spending money year after year to maintain ours, so.
And they're not a lot.
I don't think the other ones have, Lake Louise has been on top of their situation. Bellwood has not. And again, we did half of Sugar Bush cleaning out their silt pond.
About 3 or 4 years ago, so they wouldn't be up for a dredge anytime soon, I don't think.
This is, like.
No, Sugar Bush.
Sugar.
But Lake Louise did theirs, so there's 2 that haven't been touched terribly much that I know of. But yeah, your situation is far worse, and your silt pond's much bigger. So that's why we're talking.
So tell us what you would like us to take back to our community.
The first thing we'd like to see is some kind of expression by the board members in some kind of vote that they are interested in pursuing the sale of the silt pond from Mount Sun with performance requirements and giving you an easement on the south side of the silt pond. And then you have to access that part to dredge the lake. And if you're interested, if the board votes in favor of doing that, you could let us know, and then you would have I don't know what your bylaws say, but my guess is that they require 2/3 vote of all homeowners in order to sell property.
I have to go back and look. I would assume that it's at least that.
Yeah, it's probably a super majority of some kind, right? Because it's a change to the land.
I need to know, for purposes of discussing with our community, exactly what we want to purchase.
The silt ponds,
Right.
the areas around it.
Well, there's that whole field where we put the dirt, you're talking about
Yeah,
acquiring all of that?
Mhm.
Why?
because we may have to dredge it down the road.
Yeah.
And we may need to put some portion of the dredging there.
We can grant an easement for that.
Well, we're not inclined to just do an easement and come dredge your silt pond. But for exchange of property, I think the village would.
But I'm curious why having that property matters. When you say you're not interested in dredging our silt pond without that, what's the benefit to the village to have that property?
Because 41 or 2 homeowners will not have to deal with it anymore. The village will take it on as a village operation. And it won't be, well, 2015 we dredged, now it's 2023, we're dredging again. When was it dredged? It will be systematic.
Maybe I wasn't clear.
Sure.
I'm talking about the land as opposed to the silt pond. So we're willing to, I can tell the board would be willing to recommend selling the silt pond and granting easements so that South Russell Village can access the silt pond whenever it's necessary to dredge. And conceivably grant an easement for purposes of leaving the silt on that field the same way we've done it in the past. Now, obviously, there may come a point in time where there's just too much silt on that. We have to come up with a different solution. But what I'm trying to understand is why South Russell insists on owning the land and giving us an easement to access that lake, as opposed to us owning land and giving you an easement to access whatever you
Because for ease of maintenance and ensuring that the monitoring is done properly, we own both sides of the silt pond. It's a lot easier for us to do that.
need. There's nothing that prevents it.
So just like performance requirements, we could have requirements that will allow you guys to use the adjacent land.
We'd much rather own it.
And that's what I'm trying to understand is why, because the idea of performance requirements and your ability to monitor your easement solves for that. So why do you have to own the land? I mean, the easement grants you all of the rights you need to do the silt pond. I'm looking for a proposal that I think would be suitable to our community, and I think there will be pushback at selling land next to the silt pond, but I don't think there'll be as much pushback at selling the silt pond and granting an easement. And the easement has the same legal effect for you for purposes of dredging the silt pond as having the land.
Ownership is way better than easements. Always.
But you don't have any use for it from an ownership perspective.
Sure we do.
Well, and that's my concern. Tell me what it is.
We want to monitor it. We may want to do it monthly, for all we know. We're talking about things down the road.
See, here's my concern about ownership. My concern about ownership is then you can do whatever the hell you want on that land. You can go park your equipment on there if you feel like it. I don't want that. I don't think our community's gonna want that. We do have an interest in your proposal, but I don't think we wanna give up ownership of that land. We'd rather give you an easement to allow you to do everything that you need to do. Your idea that ownership is better than easement raises concerns over what you would want to do with that land once you have ownership of it. And I don't mean you, by the way, because I'm confident that you're not gonna go park your vehicles on it as soon as you own it. But you're not gonna be on village council forever.
May I make a comment, please?
Yeah, please.
Mark, do we have 47 or 41 ponds?
I heard 47 at last count, but Eric hadn't completed everything.
Okay.
And he's counting every pound that's
Okay, if I may go forward, okay? During the conversations down through the years, I've personally heard a lot about using taxpayers' money on private property. Okay? So I was thinking, the professional football and baseball teams in Cleveland and in Pittsburgh are privately owned by billionaires. But taxpayers' money built those stadiums. So I'm asking, well, how could that happen? Well, I understand they developed a stadium authority, and then the voters of those two cities, the counties that these two cities are in, voted for those stadiums. So I don't know if this can be done. But if we have 40 plus ponds in South Russell, that's the entire village, not one particular part of the village, but the entire village. So if we would evaluate these ponds and their conditions, create a SID, a special improvement district for the entire village, and then evaluate the costs that it would take to maintain these ponds, and then take it to the voters. Is that possible, solicitor?
For an ESID? I don't know.
That would be a one-time cost for maintenance, wouldn't it?
Well, it would probably be an ongoing cost, depending upon the conditions of the individual ponds. But it would be a tougher sell, most likely, to spend taxpayers' money to take care of one particular pond, like yours. But if we have a program that would meet the needs of all the ponds throughout the village, that would be a much easier sell, I would imagine. Just an idea. I don't even know if that can happen, or if it's doable.
It could, like the special improvement district, not necessarily an ESID, but a special
Right.
improvement district, absolutely.
Right. I'm looking at that because you know, as well as I know, as soon as we help your neighborhood, they're all gonna come toward us. So why not just make a special improvement district, evaluate the ponds, and give it to the voters to decide. And if the voters say, no, that's a good idea, because sooner or later, we're gonna have to take care of our pond. And that just might pass.
Mr.
I
Bell,
don't actually have a comment to that, because ultimately that's your role to say if that's something you want to do, not mine.
Chris, did you want to have any questions you want to speak tonight?
No, I'm intrigued, Richard, I'm intrigued by what Richard says about the easement as opposed to owning it. I'm having a hard time agreeing with your assessment there. But I don't fully understand that, your thought process, how you came up with that.
Well, the idea that we would have an easement to access the silt pond, it could be done that way, but in reality, we'd be buying your problem and nothing else.
That's what you're doing anyways. When you sit there, at the end of the day, that's what you're proposing, is to buy our problem, which we appreciate. But then you're saying, but I want a little bit of land with it.
Yes.
And I'm telling you that that's not gonna be popular amongst our community, because you don't need it. because you're throwing it in just because.
No,
So
it's
now-
not just because.
Of course you are.
No, I'm not.
You said there's literally no legal need for you to own the land, but there's huge problems for us if we don't. It's our community. I'll explain it to you.
Please.
Once it's South Russell Village property, you can do whatever you want. You want to make a park there for everybody to come hang out by our lake, you can do that. Right now, you can't, because it's private property. You can park heavy equipment there all year round if you want to, because it's your property, and we would have no say in the matter. You don't need that land to do what you're doing. You could sell it, I'm not sure it's buildable, but you could sell it, and we couldn't stop you. I suppose we could put restrictions on transfer in the agreement. But at the end of the day, you're saying you want it, but legally you don't need it. So why does South Russell Village all of a sudden want to own extra land that you legally don't need?
Okay, I'm gonna stop here for a second. She's first. Name and address, please.
Terry Mitchell, 112 Papa. To this point, I guess I'm a little unclear as to when we're trying to keep expenses down for the village, why acquiring this land would be desirable when it would entail not only when you want to dredge there, but we pay to mow that grass, we pay to have those trees taken care of, that costs thousands of dollars. We have the liability if somebody should walk on that property and go into our lake. I mean, why the village would want to take on all of those negative things that have a dollar sign and, I mean, potential legalities attached to them, and where that would benefit the village of South Russell. I don't understand that.
Sir, I forgot your name.
I'm sorry, Joe Pianki, 71 Paw Lake, last name is Pianeki. To Rich's point, I mean, it's unclear to me, at least, as to why you would need it just because you want it. And he's right, it's not only the people here that may not choose to do something with it, but 50 years down the road, who knows? It could become a park, they could pave it, and it could become a parking lot for snow removal equipment. They could build a maintenance building on it. They could get a special zoning thing that says, hey, we're gonna put a maintenance building on there. We're gonna put all of our, just like the one behind here, we're gonna put one out there, like this building there. We need another one there as well. Who knows? That's the big concern. We wanna keep it, I believe, as natural as possible. If you attach, I'm gonna go on a limb here, and you may all disagree with me, but if you attach that as part of this thing, it's irrefutable that one comes with the other, our community will not approve. You might as well just shut the meeting down right now and say that whole thing. We will not approve selling that land and all of that, so it just will not happen. Because there is no good reason for it. Maybe you want it because you want it, but there's no good reason for it, and it will not pass the community, I will guarantee it. So this is all for nothing.
No,
And if anybody thinks I'm wrong, the community, let me know right now.
yeah, I give you all credit. This is a stressful situation, and we don't want to divide your neighborhood. So I have a couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, please remember, this is, we were able to justify $300,000 for this central retention, the big hole behind Village Hall, because the water was going over a state highway. And we were able to justify Manor because water was flowing through people's houses. This one, we don't have a road issue, no roads being flooded, nobody's homes are being flooded. So we can't get stormwater, but we're still gonna try. We tried
$2,000 to finish the soap pump. If we didn't, we'd have a much larger problem you'd be looking at here in another year.
I think functionally the problem with our silt pump is stormwater. All the water that flows, every time you have a storm, flows and brings silt into our silt pump. And it's getting worse year after year. If it's caused by something downstream, it's caused by the excessive flow of water into our silt pump. which brings all of that debris, and then it settles in the silt.
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt.
But what I wanted to tell you is we're gonna keep digging on Wednesday, July the 12th, 2:00. We're having a Zoom meeting, and we'll have all this information out. The Zoom meeting is with Chagrin River Watershed Partners, because they're the people that can find a way and find money for us. They're the people that are really into this. You know, our engineer has said he can't justify a stormwater situation because of, it's not a highway. But we're still going to look to find, frankly, somebody else to pay for whatever the solution is. And obviously, when you look here and you think of everything and the whole bottom yellow is all flowing under Bell Road to you, I think we probably have a case of something could be done. Now, we may have to get involved with Bainbridge. We may be looking at a special improvement district. But that's what the state has created for us, the special improvement district. No guarantee there's money out there, but we're going to try. We're good at spending other people's money, before we spend our residents' money. So that'll be coming up, and Ruth I'll get all the information, the connections when you want to meet. Yeah.
But we're all in favor of finding other people to help solve this problem.
And their money, yeah, we want their money.
And their money.
If that's an option, great, because that helps you guys. It doesn't put anything on the village long-term. But,
There's
this
no
has been
guarantee.
done. I don't recall when Papa first approached this problem to council, it was some years ago,
So,
and it's been every year. You guys came to us first looking for help, right? The village didn't go to you and say, hey, we want to take your silt fund.
the village rarely comes to us first.
Well, you have a private community, a summertime, 1920 community where nobody lives part-time there anymore, right? Before the village was even a village.
Trumbull, Chagrin Falls, and South Russellville. Chagrin Falls was a vacation community before it was an actual community.
In any event, we are happy to help try and find money to solve this problem. We are happy to consider your proposal that doesn't involve land. I believe strongly that our community would not be in favor of granting ownership of the land, but would consider strongly the easement of the land to allow you to do what you need to do.
Well, how about this? We've made a proposal. You all got a counter proposal backed up by a vote of your people, your homeowners. That would be another step. And then it'd be up to the village whether it's acceptable or not.
We can do that. Are you guys confident you can pass a vote if we came through?
No.
Yeah.
I don't speak for the whole council. I mean, I can tell you this much, buying your problem without the land around it may not go over well. That I can tell you, so if you have a counter, perhaps I'm wrong.
Let's,
It won't go over well.
let's,
I'm not gonna, I understand.
Yeah, we've heard you don't agree with it.
I would say
I'm not
this.
so sure.
Some members of council were the ones who decided that retention basin needed to be done. And Meadowbrook needed to be done. And it was in our 2004 stormwater study. 15 years later, eventually, the realization came that it had to be dealt with. And there was an effort led by some council members to make that happen. And that had not occurred prior to 2019. You guys have been here many times asking for help. We're here talking about giving you help. If you don't want our help, well, okay. If you have a counter to what we proposed so far, let's hear it. The mayor may be right, long-term, and he said, or said, it's the way to go. But you know what that means? Every homeowner gets assessed on their taxes for that. And we do have Parkland doing that, and what was it, Country Estates?
Country Estates.
And Country Estates are doing that to deal with erosion. But that means they're dividing it and paying it over 20 years.
So we're doing it even more directly. We assess our numbers and we're writing checks So it's not going over 20 years, it's being taken care of
Sure, but
year after year as the bill comes due.
picture the day when you have to dredge your lake.
We budgeted for that, and we made plans for that accordingly as well. I mean, I guess providers, like, can I ask how many board members are currently owning homes in Manor Brook or Kensington?
3 council members live in Kensington
Five
and
of
the
the
mayor.
6. 5 of the 6. Manor Brook and Kensington, yes.
So 6 of the 7 board members live,
5 of the 6. Bruce is,
so 5 of the 7. So if you understand our perspective, how that looks a whole lot,
Yep.
it looks like you guys are,
took care of ourselves first.
not saying take care of yourself, but
You're
it looks like we're having a little extra.
Wait. Sorry, but you're questioning our ethics, and I really find that offensive. Okay, so stop.
I'm not questioning your efforts at all.
You absolutely are. I'm living that neighborhood, questioning my integrity.
All right,
$180,000 and $300,000 in scenarios.
First of all, I wasn't even on council when I got voted, and you're still questioning my integrity. I don't appreciate it.
Hold on.
Let's chill.
Let's take it.
Raise your hand politely.
I
You got it.
have brought this up before, and there's no empirical study, but I still go back to the basics that this lake was here before South Russell. It was a beautiful, pristine lake, no problems. And then development after development after development after development, which the village benefits all the property tax money from, went up. Which then caused all this silt and runoff and stormwater and all that to flow into our silt pond and our lake. It seems like the village is getting all the property tax money from all wonderful development, and none of this stuff was ever considered as development after development was being allowed to be built. Nobody did a study and say, wait a minute, what's that gonna do to the people downstream here? Nobody thought about that, and now we're left holding the bag. We were here first, right? And that's how it looks to me. That the village gets all the property tax money and let all this development go on willy-nilly without any kind of like study or, hey, wait a minute, what the hell are we doing here? Or anything put in place to figure out how to do all this stormwater stuff. Now we have a problem, right? And we're the ones absorbing it. I tell you what, 42 homeowners are not gonna pay for all the stormwater runoff from the village when the village is collecting all the property tax money that probably caused a lot of the stormwater to run off into our silt pond in the first place. Now, we collectively, given all that, it's undeniable. We collectively have to come up with a solution that takes some of this burden off 42 homeowners. It cannot continue. Because our property value is gonna go down, because word's gonna get out around the community, hey, unless you're from Boston, you know nothing about this, no one's gonna wanna buy a house in Paw Lake. Because we're gonna have this assessment and this ongoing issue all the time. It's gonna ruin our property value. I know me for one, being my age, I'm not paying for future generations. I'm not doing it. I can't. And I gotta bet that quite a few people in our homeowners communities are gonna feel the same way. So,
Let me just, because I think the mayor would like to take the temperature down, let me suggest that we do that. Chris, no one's questioning on this.
Appreciate it.
Mark, you and I sometimes disagree, and we all appreciate that this meeting is for the purpose of trying to solve the problem.
It
It
is.
doesn't mean, I understand, it doesn't mean that we agree with the proposal, but we will communicate the proposal to our community. We will have a special meeting which requires at least 2 weeks' notice under our minutes. We will then communicate back what I anticipate will be a counter based upon what's been discussed here. And we'll go from there.
There is a council meeting on Monday, the 10th. Probably, I would imagine it'll be just an update will be provided by the public utilities. And I'll get that information out in plenty of time for this Zoom. Again, we're looking for somebody else to help pay for whatever the issue is. Or maybe they may have a solution. I don't know.
quick question.
Last question then,
You had
okay?
mentioned about Representative Joyce being involved or at some
Oh.
level, and is there anything that came about from that, from a federal,
Yeah.
any level? All right.
Yes, we had lunch with his representative. Basically, he told us, come back if you have something, a big project involving multiple communities. Don't come with South Russell needs some help. That's the 12th is that follow-up we met with him, I think, in May, and we're coming back on the 12th. The Schooner River Watershed, they operate at a different level, and they know how to play the game, and they're the ones that can help us out and come up with a solution.
Thank you.
All right.
I have a real quick question about the silt fence, silt wall you're talking about putting to the south. I'm trying to understand how that works. Totally
Just one.
acknowledge you may not know fully yet.
So the silt fence would just be, well, I'm talking about putting it along the edge of our silt pond to prevent the silt that we just pulled out
From going back in,
from going back
like
in.
construction, like put out.
Yeah.
Sure. Were you talking about some kind of wall too to the south, like
Yeah,
Silver
so-
Creek?
So within our silt pond, you can't really see it on, because it's
I can
big enough,
guess.
but- So the water flows in through the south side. If you build, so what he talked about was something as simple as those concrete barriers you see in road construction,
Mhm.
dropping a few of them in and building them up below water level, but creating a fence. I've also separately talked to him about putting in what is like what amounts to a small road, a couple of feet up off of the base of if we could do it. What it does is it catches the silt, but it also provides a platform for the earth moving equipment to go in. When you lower the silt pond, you can drive on it and scoop it up. And this is something that as a kid I saw, because they do it in the Shaker Lakes. They have basically a gravel road that's built up about 3 feet from the base of the lake. When they drop the lake water to dredge the lake, the silt's caught,
By Beaumont?
what's that?
Is it over by Beaumont?
No, it's Green Lake the creek that runs along Shaker Country Club feeds into Greek Lake or
Yeah.
Green Lake. They literally have a road that when you lower the lake level, the heavy equipment can drive in on it, scoop all the silt out from the one side of the road. And they're done in a span of a couple of days. But it's been there forever. The question whether that would work versus the barriers is a function of the stability of the base in the area that we're talking about. Whether the base would support it or not, my suspicion based upon the conversation with the guy who dredged it is that there may be a spring that feeds up through the bottom of that silt pond, because there's some areas that he said were a little unstable, more towards the middle. So I'd have to figure out where he was talking about.
Put it this way, if the village takes over your silt pond, that would be our problem, and possibly a solution.
And we're willing to consider that.
So,
Our dispute is over something else.
sure, but we made you guys a proposal. You've never gotten one from the village before, right?
We
Thank you.
Okay.
And we will take
You
it.
have Rich now lawyers, and so's Chris Berger, et cetera, and so's Brian. If there's some negotiation about conditions, we're willing to listen.
And we'll get back to you on that, now that you've made a proposal that we can communicate. No, it's not an offer, but it's.
Would it be helpful to have like a proposed picture of kind of the area we are talking about? So it's the wet area of the lake, which is like 0.89 acres, and then it's 3 acres or so that will be split off from that entire parcel.
You might.
I don't know if that
Picture-
Yeah, you might as well show us
Correct.
a picture. So you have.
Well, I was gonna ask if you want me to email it to you so you have it
Yeah.
clear? Okay.
And if you would like somebody from the village to attend your meeting for that specific purpose, happy to do it. I've never been yelled at by 40 people all at once, but that's.
Send it.
Okay. Do I have
You're
your?
gonna tell me to jump in the lake periodically, though.
We got much more.
You jump in the silt pond, now that we've reached here.
The lake's not deep enough.
Oh,
Without going.
Got it, thank you.
Our hoppers.
One last comment. She had asked to get a draft of proposal ready, and I slowed that down because I want to just make sure we go slow in this process.
Yeah, I'd start with sending in a picture before we draft the
Okay.
proposal.
I will do that.
Because the proposal will be,
Um,
that the picture will not be popular, but.
It's just just a draft.
This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You guys tell us yea or nay,
No, that's why I said second.
if you got a counter, send it to us, right?
Yes, for sure.
I mean, we got 5 years before it silts up again, right? Or 3, or 2.
We are all available through email. I think M. Porter at South Russell, I think that's how we all are, right? So it'd be Ruth Kavanaugh at South Russell,
No,
Art Kavanaugh.
but we would not be texting or emailing.
We're not.
We do this to those
No, right, Ruth? I think we should put this on the record, actually. Just real
Okay.
quick. We do not have a quorum of council tonight. I think everyone is aware of that. We only have 3 members. So tonight technically is not a technical meeting of council that is, pursuant to 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. But we are keeping minutes, and there'll be notes technically of this meeting. It's recorded. And then Ruth, do you want to say anything, or do you want me to? Okay, I was just gonna say that you are obviously a council member, but you are not here tonight in your capacity as a council member, and you're not counted towards quorum. And that you are here as a member of the audience, correct? Thank you.
She's talking.
She's allowed to talk.
Go to her own HOA meeting?
Let the record show for 59 minutes, Ruth Kavanaugh did not say a word. Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting that's not a meeting? So moved by Porter, seconded by Canton. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, we adjourn. Bobby, if you have 2 minutes, I can talk about it. One-on-one.
Of course.
Yes, okay. Let me shut this down.
So, Rich, this was quickly drafted by the Ohio engineer. It's not like anyone said, hey, this is the amount that we have. Just so you know.
I understand. All right, a couple of things. One, this is actually, this is where this is the area around the lake. So.
You're southern?
Well done.
We're not here for 3 months.
Thanks for
Yeah. And the reality is,
Well, let's see, I get up to 5.
I had to get up at
I have a coffee.
He wants to be made Starbucks.
Maybe